For more than 70 years, the Edgar Cayce Center in Virginia Beach, Virginia, has attracted people to innovative education and research. Edgar Cayce's teachings always emphasize comparative studies, gaining wisdom and health by integrating many points of view. Join us now at the Seaside Cayce Conference Center with its inspirational meditation gardens, health therapy center, extensive library, and conference hall. We're pleased you're joining us today for highlights from a recent workshop. Listen for new ideas and insights that will put you in touch with your own inner wisdom as the Edgar Cayce Center presents.
Carol Ann Liaros, please welcome her this morning with me.
Thanks, Jen. Good morning, everyone. This is going to be a very exciting, very filled week, as you can see already from the activities that are planned. And the workshop is primarily, the morning sessions at least, and I know the afternoons too with Henry, are primarily experiential. You can read all about all of these things in a million books out there, but how often do you get a chance to do it? And so you'll find that the workshops are designed so they're about 90% experiential, about 10% presentation, because each day, for example, tomorrow we'll be doing psychometry. I'll lay the foundation, what psychometry is, how it works, what's true about it, what isn't true about it, etc. And then we'll get right into doing it. So it is very experiential. And it's very important that you get the feedback about your experiences. So that's pretty much the program. The theme for the program, Passing on the Legacy of Edgar Cayce, came from some brainstorming 8 years ago when Henry and I were designing this workshop. I always like to have a theme for all the workshops I do. Somehow that feels real good to me. So I thought, well, Edgar Cayce said in his readings that assistants should be trained to do readings to pass on, you know, this ability that we all have and so on. And so I thought, okay, that's what this is, passing on the legacy of Edgar Cayce. What I'll do as the week progresses is I'll share with you applications of your own intuitive ability in your everyday life. I would say there might be a handful of people here who are taking this workshop to become professional psychics. The rest of you, usually, from what I hear, want to enhance, polish up that part of the diamond, that facet of your diamond, that is your intuition, so you can use it in relationships and decisions, in your work, in whatever you do in life, in all the decisions you make. Making an intuitive decision about what workshop should I take, what workshop leader should I go with, etc., etc. So I'll be sharing that with you, and then I'll ask something back. How do you see this particular technique, experience can be massaged, changed, etc., so you can pass that on, and I'll collect those. So then the next group, I'll share those suggestions with. So it is receiving the legacy of Edgar Cayce and passing it on. What I did was I went through the books that Edgar Cayce, the readings he did about intuition and ESP and psychic things, and I cut out some of them. There's 2 thick books of readings on Edgar Cayce's readings on psychic ability. And I took out what I considered things that fit in with this workshop, and I enlarged them and so on. Someone would ask a question about, you know, should I develop my psychic ability, and his answer. So I invite you to go around and look at those and see what Edgar Cayce had to say about that. Also, many of you know of my work with the blind, which I'll refer to as the week goes on, and there are photographs here of the adult program and I think the children's program of when we taught blind people, and still are, how to develop their intuition to become more mobile, more independent, etc. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background, but before I do, I'd like you to take your chairs and face the person sitting next to you. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to take 2 minutes, and you're going to share with your partner a psychic or intuitive experience that you had in 2 minutes. Maybe you were thinking about someone you hadn't seen in 2 years, the phone rang and you knew it was them. Maybe you were driving along the thruway and you suddenly had a desire to get off, although you normally don't get off at that exit, you did, and you found out later there was an accident up ahead. Whatever your experience is, share that with your partner B. At the end of 2 minutes, I'll say stop, and then B, you'll tell your partner your intuitive or psychic experience. Okay? We all have it. Number 2, you know how to do it because you've done it. You know how to use your own intuition. Now, is there anyone in the room who didn't have something to share? Okay, over here. 1. Okay. What is your name? Mary? Okay. We're all going to talk to Mary at the end of the week, and we're going to say, Mary, now tell us, have you had an experience? Okay? And I know what that feels like. For 29 years, I never had a psychic experience in my life, and overnight, I could do it. So I understand. Okay, so it tells you, yes, I know how to do it. However, maybe for you, it's like a computer. You know, you have all this data in the computer. All this information is in the computer. If you don't know how to access it, it doesn't do you any good. But then it's like every once in a while your elbow hits a key and something comes up on the screen. You think, where did that come from? That's what intuition is like for a lot of people. It happens accidentally or not under their control, etc. What we're learning in this week is how to access all that information that's in that computer. That's what we're learning how to do. Because it's all in there. You know how to do it. You just proved it to yourself. Probably many of you have many experiences to share. It's easy. It's fun. And it's using more parts of yourself. It makes life richer and fuller. And I say that from experience. And in talking to others in this group, you'll find out that's true. When we talk about carrying on the Edgar Cayce legacy, Edgar Cayce has given us a great gift. Permission to honor and respect our intuition. Throughout our lives, the school system, educational system, maybe our family system, other systems, have honored and respected our intellect. However, quite often our intellect is said as, oh, that's just your imagination. It's a real put down. It's a real disrespect. It's a real dishonoring of a very important facet of us. The ARE is a place to learn and understand your own intuition. You are carrying on the legacy of Edgar Cayce. When he said, someone asked him, should assistants be trained? It was a resounding yes. Now, whether you plan on being a psychic or not is irrelevant. Are you going to enrich other people's lives by what you pass on when you leave here? We have to make decisions from the time we get out of bed at night, or in the morning, until... Actually, that's the way I'd like it to be. Until we go to bed at night. It's simple things. What should I have for breakfast? You know, which way should I go to work? Who should I call today? Minor decisions up to major decisions. Like, where shall I put my 401k investments? You know, big time things that have a big impact on our lives. And so if we can marry our intellect, read all the data, and our intuition, what research has shown is that people make more accurate decisions. What is the purpose of this course, our intuition? I'd just like to give you a little list before we start into some of the workshop. To understand ourselves and others better. To build community. There's nothing that builds community faster than being intuitively in tune with another individual, because you don't just see the mask, you don't just see the surface, you see who they really are. To accelerate accurate decision making, because you're using more of the brain. It empowers people. When people get a hold of their own intuition and respect and honor it, they feel very empowered. To anticipate changes. We live in a world of change. Things change daily, hourly. It expands vision. We see more of the world. Right now, maybe you look at people and you see only to the end of their skin, but they do not end at their skin. We expand many feet out from our skin. It expands our vision of what the world is, what other people are, who we are. It helps you access your genius, your own inner genius, and we're all geniuses. It touches the heart. And I know that one for a fact. Sometimes when I would give readings, people would come in, and you know how some people you immediately feel that you really don't care for them. They wouldn't be your favorite person. But as I tuned into them to do the reading, all that was forgotten because it was a soul-to-soul connection.
I heard about Edgar Cayce, who when he slept, he was his whole other intelligence. Here was a man that in his sleep, he became smarter and talked in a whole different way. Just like when I was a kid, when I would be dreaming, I would be very much more creative and could do things that I couldn't do while I was awake. So I got interested in what is this other reality? Those remarks were by Dr. Henry Reed, the other half of the training team here at the Edgar Cayce Legacy Conference. A visionary scientist and former psychology professor at Princeton University, Dr. Reed has extensively published his research based upon Edgar Cayce's principles. We see Dr. Reed here at the conference sharing with the participants his ideas on what it takes for us to trust our intuition and that we can learn how to trust from watching our own breathing.
And what would it take for you to learn to trust your intuition? Because that's what this is all about. If you go around, people working in factories, people on cruises, kids, again, in lots of different contexts, and we want to explore intuition. What do you think is something that I can get almost everybody to agree about? Not the definition of intuition, or what it is, we still don't even know. Any guesses? How many of you can recall a time when you regret not following your hunch? One. Good, okay. Okay, well that's the one. Find almost everybody says they can remember a time when they regret not following a hunch. So there's a place to start. We know what that feels like. Oh, darn. You know? And for some people, they say that thinking about it is when they decided to really start paying attention to their intuition. They say, I'm never going to let this happen again. Oh, this the third time. Golly, I'm really going to start paying attention to my intuition now. This kind of like an initiation experience for a lot of people. You know what is one of the most common instances of regret over not following a hunch? Not getting married is right. So many people can say they had this feeling they shouldn't marry that person. But they went ahead. Yeah. And let's just think about it, because one of the things I'd like to ask you is think about the times that you regret not following a hunch. What does it take? You can see that some of the challenge is to learn how to recognize your intuition, to learn how to make it clearer or more intense. But a lot of it is about learning how to trust it, learning how to be with it. For example, in the marriage situation, they say, well, I had already gotten the gifts, the invitations had already gone out, there was too much social pressure. No. Another reason given is, I couldn't explain it. You're not going to marry me because of the hunch? You know? Because you don't have anything to point to. You can point to figures. You can things that we can all see with the eyes, we can all point to it and say, look, here's the reasons, or here's the logic. Those externals. But with intuition, it's an inner reality, so it's hard to share it with another person to get them to see what's going on. Most of the time when we've been in school, we've had a teacher up front like here, pointing up to something you're supposed to follow. You're supposed to do it right. Handwriting is a good example. You know, here's how you're supposed to make the letters. Say, here's a good reason for it, because if your handwriting doesn't follow the pattern, then nobody can read what you're trying to write. So it makes sense, and we learn how to do as we're told. How many of you can remember a teacher who said, don't pay any attention to what I'm saying. It doesn't matter what I think. It's what you think that counts. Anyone have a teacher like that? A couple, yeah, great. Oh, Henry Reed. Oh. Yeah, so we're not trained in looking inward. Intuition is knowing from within. And we're not trained to do that. And you know, we all have a great teacher inside as to how to be intuitive. Because we're being intuitive all the time. And that is because, basically, being intuitive is being yourself. How else can you be yourself? Because you didn't get a book written about how to be you. It just comes from you. You make yourself up, improvise from moment to moment. And you've got a great teacher, a great guide, a great guru that's within you that can show you some tremendous secrets about functioning intuitively. And that teacher is your breath. And so I'd like to have you get reacquainted with your breath. Now, you don't have to sit in any particular posture. You don't have to have your eyes closed. All I want you to do is be aware of something that happens all the time, your breathing. Just simply be aware of your breathing and let it be. And this is a great first lesson. Just reflect on what that was like. If you had that sense of somehow I want to change my breathing, or I don't feel I'm breathing deep enough or regular enough or something, that if you interview people about intuition, give me an example of an experience that you had that you think might be an example of intuition. People will tell you all kinds of stuff. Having this feeling that maybe there's traffic is bad on some road and going a different route home, and then hearing on the news that the road there was an accident. Knowing who it was that's on the phone before they pick it up. On and on and on. All kinds of different things. And I say, well, do you think you can do that on purpose? People say, well, you know, that's the trouble with intuition. Intuition is easy to do when it's spontaneous, when it just happens. But when you try to do it intentionally, I just get in my own way. I foul it up somehow. Now, it's the same with the breathing. Think about the breathing for a moment. Something that's been going on for years, happening all by itself. But as soon as you pay attention to it, you want to fool with it. I don't know if I'll breathe, unless I got to make these breathing motions. Now that I think about it, gosh, where's this breathing been happening where I haven't been paying attention? I'm lucky to be here. You might say a lack of trust, but explore the contours of that for a moment. Once again, pay attention to your breathing. Pay special focus on the exhalations, and let your breath, the exhalations, show you how to relax, how to let go. Now, your breath knows how to do this. So every time the breath goes out, notice what it does. How does it do it? Just be aware. You're the student. Your breath is your teacher. And each time the breath goes out, it shows you how to relax and let go. So what are you learning? See, maybe some thoughts or pictures or images might come to mind to express to you what's going on during the exhalation. How does relaxation happen? How do we let go? Let's get some observations from some of you. What do you think? What have you noticed? What have you learned here in the last minute about what goes on during letting go? Else? Yes?
The breath is like a reminder of the flow of spirit, even the flow of water flowing down into the ocean and recycling.
In fact, some people that write about intuition talk about getting into a flow state. That there are times in our lives when we're naturally in the flow. Athletes sometimes talk about being in the groove, where everything just seems to happen just perfectly all by itself without any effort on our part, and everything works out right. That's a special time of grace for the athlete. And we know that some of us have those moments during the day or days where everything flows well. Now, we can intentionally get into that flow state by using our breath as a guide. Just let the breath come in all by itself. As you're relaxed and let go, you surrender your life to your breathing, trusting that the next breath will come to you all by itself. And it comes. And what's that like? Watch with each cycle of your breathing as the next breath comes without you having to do anything. It just comes all by itself. And see, what is that like? What does that remind you of? What images come to describe what that's like to have these breaths come all by themselves? Yes, you wanted to say something.
Well, it's interesting to parallel. The word inspire.
Inspire.
And the breath in.
Uh-huh.
The inspiration.
Yes, right.
Inspiration.
The breath of inspiration, getting inspired, letting the stuff in, the insights. You're all getting inspired right now. When we say I had an inspiration, it's like this idea, oh, this is more than I could have thought of. This is something special. This came from beyond. Inspiration has connotations in which boundaries are transcended. You're going beyond yourself, or something from beyond you is coming to you, and yet it's happening inside of you. There's a paradox there. There's a paradox about intuition, because you see, what we're saying is you can learn about the world out there by looking in here. How do you learn about the world out there? By looking in here. That doesn't make sense. We learn about the world by microscopes and telescopes and so on. That's the way we've been taught. But now we're starting to see that we can learn about the world out there by going in here. And one of the ways to answer that mystery is by exploring, like she said, with this word inspiration, that somehow the great out there exists in here, and you're aware of it when you're in this certain state of mind, this inspired state of consciousness. In one moment, you're going to pay attention to your breath again and say, yeah, what is this mystery? And you, all of a sudden, an inspiration will come, and you'll sense your connection with the greater reality, your connection with the greater life, and how it's all there for you inside, like a fountain, just ready for you to take what you need.
People talk about the difference between psychic and intuition as if they know what the difference is. And it's not clear what that difference might be. I think for some people, psychic means something extraordinary and intuition is something more natural. But I came across one distinction that was kind of interesting, that you could go into a library and be asked to say what is on line 3 of page 53 of the 73rd book on the 16th shelf, and you could say that. But if you were posed, then maybe that's psychic ability. But suppose you had to do a report on dinosaurs and how dinosaurs affect on the TV industry, where would you go get the best quote? There you would have to not only know every line on every book and every shelf, but also evaluate each line for its usefulness to you. So intuition would be that ability to take you to just the book and have it open up to just the page that you need. So someone that defined intuition as psychic plus.
We're going to quickly review, and then we're going to venture on here, because I'm going to be giving you a complete package for accessing and interpreting the Intuitions of the heart, the wisdom of the heart. One of the catchphrases about intuition is you let it happen. It happens naturally. It happens spontaneously. How can you be spontaneous on purpose? With your breath, you can say, I choose to allow my breath to flow freely in the presence of my awareness. That requires you to make an active choice to trust. And the more you practice the active choice of trust, the more the treasures that are inside of you will open to your awareness and be ready for you to embrace them. And I'd like you to just experiment then as you get into this flow state where you're letting go and trusting in inspiration. That's the flow state. To experiment with what it might be like to appreciate this gift of breath. What might it be like for you to simply experience gratitude for the fact that you're breathing? Specifically, I'd like you to put your focus in your heart area and see how your heart responds to feeling grateful. Okay, somebody? Tell me, what was that like? Yes?
It feels as if my heart gets bigger and expands.
You feel like your heart gets bigger and it expands. How many of you experience something like that? You could experience an expansion. Okay? And we talk about our heart going out. You know, is that they're talking about some kind of an expansion of awareness where our heart goes out.
And this is where the heart connection comes in, as we say our heart reaches out to somebody. I feel you in my heart. That there's in our language, we've been carrying it for years, an understanding of intuition. Intuition involves me putting myself in your shoes, me feeling myself close to you, and we do that through an act of imagination, through an act of caring and feeling, and that's an intuitive process.
You've never seen a heart go out, but yet you understand what it means. How could you understand what it means except by a way of empathy? You feel your way into the statement. And over the years, whenever you've heard it, you felt your way into it. It's an intuitive understanding.
And I think most viewers will find this is something that they do, like with their children, very automatically. They open up their hearts to their children. They almost imaginatively embrace their child, bring them close, and that way they understand what's going on inside the child. That would be the intuitive heart process. I think it's a very natural one.
Let's do a little experiment here. Get yourself with a partner. We're going to make a heart connection with our partner. It's all going to be from the inside. You're going to connect with your partner not by grabbing them by the shoulders, but by going inside. So close your eyes first. So we shift to the flow state, and from the flow state, we begin to be aware of this flow state and appreciate it, feel gratitude, and that moves us into heart awareness. It warms, it expands. Everything that you need is being provided for you right now. And so you're coming from a place of abundance and love and sharing. And just take this energy and reach out and make a heart connection with your partner. And just making this heart connection, being aware of each other heart to heart, just simply appreciating each other from the inside. And just see what that's like. Now, let me just ask you this. How many of you does it feel real to be aware through your heart? Okay. Oh, so many hands are up. Does it feel real to you to experience a heart connection with another person? It does? A few hands are up. More hands are up. Here's something we take for granted but has profound implications. That we can experience a heart connection with somebody and it feels real. We're not using a stethoscope. We didn't take a knife out and cut open their chest. We're not touching them, but it feels real. Now, we can get some external validation for this by talking with the person about what we experience. We're going to explore a little bit more about the external validation and how we can actually use this heart awareness for intelligence gathering, for guidance, purposes of guidance and helping one another. Think of intuition as something like this. there's this fog in front of you. You're trying to keep your eye on the ball, but you can't see the ball. The fog's in the way. You're trying to reach out and make contact with that ball that you can't see. You're trying to understand this thing that you don't quite know what's coming your way. And so you ask that you be guided, and from within, apparently innocuous, dumb, stupid little memory pops out. But any memory can be the potential seed for wisdom. So you ask of that memory, what could you teach me today? If you were a teaching story, what would you have to say to me? What can I learn from you? And then you apply that towards this unknown situation. Like when we say someone is wise, it's because they've had a lot of experiences. A lot of people I discover, like a person who's an elder in their career, who's had a lot more experience, is going to be much more intuitive in their work because they have a feeling for things. So this is what you're going to be doing. And the unknown ball that you can't see is going to be the unspoken question of your partner. So we're going to partner up, and I'm going to guide you in providing an intuitive consultation for one another. Persons A, you have a very important task to do because you're going to set the intention of this exercise, because inside you're going to decide on a particular question or challenge that's facing you in your life. Don't say what it is. Keep it to yourself. But you focus on one question, one topic for which you would like a new creative perspective. Persons B, raise your hands. I now swear you in as intuitive consultants. You're to be true to your heart and to speak from the heart. I'm going to guide you through the process. We're going to get into the flow state by focusing on our breathing. We're going to get into heart awareness. We're going to make a heart connection with our partner. And then we're going to trust, just like we trust our breathing, we're going to trust that a memory will come to us. Doesn't matter what kind of a silly memory it might be. We don't have to choose it. We'll trust that the memory will come, and then we're going to tell that memory to our partner like we're telling them a story, a teaching story. And you're going to tell them a story, and then you're going to talk out loud as you try to figure out what the story means for you, what wisdom you can get from that memory. And when you've finished, then your partner is going to tell you about their question, and they're going to take what you shared as a reading for them on their question and give you some feedback. So that's how it's going to go. So persons B, close your eyes now. Why bother thinking about what would be the best memory when you can trust that inspiration will simply come to you? So reach out with your heart now and make a heart connection with your partner, giving yourself permission to share of yourself if it would mean helping your partner in their concern. So without even thinking about it or choosing it yourself, you can just intend that the right memory will come for you. You can say it as an affirmation if you like. I now allow my mind to bring forth into my awareness just the right memory, which when I share it aloud with my partner and explore its message for the wisdom it has for me, that it will awaken some inspiration in my partner that will be helpful to them in their concern. And when you've finished, then your partner will tell you about the concern that they've been thinking about and give you some feedback. And when they give you that feedback, then perhaps you'll better understand the meaning of your story and the significance it could have for your partner. Okay, now open your eyes and tell your partner about that memory that came to you. And be pretty much like this.
I was thinking maybe like 28 minutes.
I remember one of the times that I did this, and I had this memory. I was mowing the lawn. I was a little kid. I was mowing the lawn, and my mom was there sitting on the patio, and I was being allowed to use the power lawnmower. This is a big deal for me. And as I'm mowing, I go a little bit too fast, and I miss a spot. And I look over my shoulder real quick to see if she notices before I can come back to cut that. And that was the memory. And when I was talking about it, I realized how much I had wanted her approval and realized what that wanting mom's approval had led to in later life and whatnot. And when I opened my eyes, my partner was crying, and she said, oh boy, this really is important, because she was going into counseling because she noticed that her daughter was starting to exhibit problems that she had had with her mom, and she didn't want to be replicating this kind of a thing. And this whole approval thing was really important to her, and I thought, I felt really good about that.
Edgar Casey had a particular viewpoint on psychic training, and that was to not focus on the psychic per se, but to focus on the purpose for which the psychic information might fill. In other words, rather than me focusing on can I get pictures of you in my mind, focus on how can I help you, trying to help you, and then let those pictures come out in response to the desire to be helpful to you.